Oh, I feel like I need to take a moment after that last game. Goodness gracious, if someone's watching this later in a replay, you missed out on some bangers across on Twitch Live. But hopefully another bang ahead of us. Crackety promised entertainment, and entertainment shall be delivered. We've got Crackety here on his classic, the Chinese, going up against AOM player. Oh my god. Can you believe it? I know who this is, guys. If you take the M and copy and paste the M, and then you turn it upside down and delete the O, you have the identity of this player. This is the Canadian kid. It is, of course, Wham01. First of his name on his Abbasid. Actually, like what I would call one of his signature civs, right? Puppy Paw gets a lot of kind of like praise as, you know, one of the Chinese kings right now. To me, Wham has always been one of the best Abbasid players. Puppy Paw has definitely been up there with him, but there's always been something a little bit different that I have to appreciate about the way that Wham plays this civ. This one's going to be a fun one. We've got both players on what I'd argue is the most comfortable civs. I wouldn't have it any other way. Rocky River is going to be where this takes place, and we are already going to check in on the sheep pool because this is very important in the early game for the Chinese. It doesn't really matter that much for the Abbasids, and it's why I'm curious as to why... Oh, Wham. Unfortunately, he ended up in a sticky situation, as you often do. Remember, the Chinese see your scout before you see theirs, so they can pivot the direction to get ahead of you. And it looks like that is exactly what has happened here. And it should allow Crackety, in the second part of this, to pull in a lot of sheep. In fact, unless Wham knows, which he won't, you've got to be kidding me. This is brutal. You know, one thing I'll say is it's much harder to actually lead the opponent as the Chinese versus spotting them out ahead of time, right? Because the logic is that they might see your sheep before you see their scout. So this is even more brutal the way this is playing out. And I think Wham knows it as well, right? Like, you check this entire corner and you found no sheep. At this point, alarm bells are going off in your brain, right? But where do you go from here to get ahead, right? You might be able to run across your opponent's base and catch 2 extra sheep, but that's probably going to be the maximum. And unfortunately, it looks like Crackety is ahead of him on that as well, knows exactly what he's up to. This is really cool from Crackety. Now with this type of scout rotation, you can essentially shove your opponent in. I'm not the biggest fan of him turning like this. I think that was a little bit of a blunder, but luckily he recovers it just in time. And it means that Wham has just wasted the second half of this scouting game getting nothing. This is a perfect example of where China can be really oppressive, right? Because he just sees you ahead of time and he's able to start shoving into you because you don't even know you're potentially cutting someone off yet. And all of a sudden now, what looked like a 8 sheep game turns into a 15 sheep game up against 13 on the other side. Wham basically getting all of his value on the opening only. Eco Wing is on the way though. To be expected here, right? Like, I don't really think Military Wing is that good against Chinese. The problem is that they're always going to build a condensed TC. So getting in and stopping them is difficult. Not to mention that this is a civ that can easily just rush up an outpost if they see you coming. So this is definitely the right call coming out from Wham. Just focus on your own economy. And this is how you actually kind of compete. Because the cool thing about the Abbasids here, Fertile Crescent with a 30% discount for not much into the extra tech of fresh foodstuffs is kind of insane when you think about it, right? It allows you to easily afford free TCs when your opponent's on 2. That's very important because Song Dynasty makes 2 TC much better for Chinese. But free TC will make you more productive. On top of that, while being more productive, you will spend notably less food on villages per minute than your opponent, right? Because the reality is what's going to happen with Song Dynasty is that Crackety is going to be spending 200 food per TC. Meanwhile, the Abbasids are only going to be spending 96 food per minute per TC. So they can actually go up to 4 TCs and still spend less on villages than you do, right? Usually you stop at 3 though, mainly because at that point the cost association is similar, but the crazy thing is because your opponent has to go Barbican and Imperial Academy, they're behind. Another interesting detail in this matchup is that Chinese don't have this broken edge in a lot of situations with the Imperial officials anymore, because you have to remember, supervision is 20%, it seems great, it's great on limited resources, sure, but in terms of efficiency and what you're getting extra, while it makes you more optimal around not draining initial resources quickly, in terms of gathering, the Abbasids are absolutely fine with this matchup, due to the Golden Age kicking in so fast and giving them a 15% gathering rate to match up against that 20% extra drop-off. All right, get your predictions in, guys. 1's in chat if you favor Crackety here. 2's in chat if you favor Wham, aka AOM player. I actually think Abbasids are fairly favored in this matchup now, right? Am I wrong in that? Am I wrong? No, the kids are. It's that kind of feeling to it. I'm wondering, if I check the recent statistics, Chinese versus Abbasids, 53.1 limited games played. Let's check the previous patch. And thank you very much, Shivaki, for the resub. Look at you, China #1, huh? We'll have to see. Chinese versus Abbasids here. Previous patch, actually, China lost. They were 46.7% win rate over 15 games. It's kind of funny, actually, because like you have limited data, right? I feel like not many people play China on the ladder right now. And last season, you had the added difficulty of the fact that nobody believed in the Abbasids. I mean, I don't favor Crackety here. I'm just going to say it, guys. This Barbican is nowhere near a town center belonging to Blue. Therefore, it's not a good Barbican. It's not what I've come to expect out of Crackety. I'm thoroughly disappointed here. So this should be a Castle Age rush now, right? Oh, that's interesting. Why did Wham stop at 210 stone and not get the last bit? Something weird's going on here. Did Wham miss micro? Miss macro, rather? He's building into camel arches, which is also intriguing. Yeah, something funky is going on here, folks. You'd think he'd be dropping this third TC over on the wood here with the berries. But he's not. Instead, he's switching it up. I don't know if I like this. More importantly, I don't necessarily hate it. The problem with camel archers here is, like, why would you choose this choice over just trying to get a bit more greedy first? Because I think delaying it by an extra camel worth to get a TC isn't the worst of ideas here, right? Just inflates you insanely fast. But what he's focusing on is the relics, right? By going for camel archers, you can now guard the relics, so when your opponent fast castles, he doesn't get anything from it. And yeah, that's exactly what the thought process is. You can see Wham even is scouting Crackety, and weirdly enough, Crackety's just allowing it. Oh, this is going to be a Palace Guard flood. Dude, this is disgusting. I love this. Not because of Crackety. Screw that guy, okay? Imagine imagine this. Palace Guard spam. No, it's the Camel Archer detail. And yes, the Chinese are even on workers, but that's fully debated. Remember, they've built taxmen, and taxmen count to this cap. So they're actually at 31 villagers to 36. So they are falling behind, because Song Dynasty versus 2TC, you're going to lose that every day of the week, right? You're producing 4 villagers. Your opponent's producing 6 every minute. And the kind of crazy thing is, once again, you're spending more. It's pretty ludicrous, right? 200 food a minute for you, and your opponent is spending, 192 per minute. So clock tower on the way. Palace Guard flood coming, but honestly, I really like Wham's build. I think this is smart. He needs to keep an eye out for the Monk play, because that's logical for Crackety here, right? Like, when you go fast castle like this, you push some Palace Guard or some Lancers, and then you immediately start supervising Monk. Ooh, speaking of the supervisor, boys. Cheeky attempt there, not going to work out. Like that he led with the Scout, just to make sure that no permanent damage is done here by the hand cannon slits. And Wham, not far off a tech off himself. A tech up that should be military wing here, right? Military wing's quite nice, because actually archers with composite bows aren't that terrible dealing with Palace Guard due to the lower armor. And you open the edge with Camel Riders, which stops your opponent from going into Lancers. Wait, but instead, Crackety's going into Chuganu, right? No, there's no way he sent me a game where he builds Chuganu. With how Crackety knows, what Crackety knows, of how I feel about Chuganu. I can already feel my blood boiling. Okay. Crack. He really just queue and cancel every single unit you can build out of an archery range. Okay, archer's pretty cool here. I don't know if I'd say this is better than just going Chuganu. I feel like Chuganu is just logically like a lot more sound here. But it might be that he feels he needs that extra gold for Palace Guard, and then maybe for some Monk pushes. I mean, it gives you a little bit more mobility. So I guess the logic is if you're going Palace Guard plus Archers, you can't really leverage Palace Guards well if they're with Chiganu. But Archer Palace Guard, the movement speed is close enough that it's not too bad. Nice micro there, Wham. Just frontlining with the Scout. Got to be very careful with this. You've only got a 5 count of Camel Archers, and your opponent has quite a few Palace Guard. And weirdly enough, folks, I expected this to be a play for the Relics. It's not whatsoever. Crackety, instead, looks like he's gunning for the enemy base. Military wing is coming in 1 minute's time. Stables are also being prepped by the Abbasids. I mean, surely you go for Relics, though, at this stage. There we go. There's my boy. And yes, it's almost like Palace Guard are absurd. They do reach your base very fast. And then they screw you over with 1.69 movement speed. For that nice little chase down. Unfortunately, the problem is he just walked into a bit of a trap. Camel Archers have such high base damage. This is without even having Steeled Arrow right now. And that's now coming in, so the damage is going to hurt a lot more from them and the TC. A lot of idle time being achieved in the meantime, at least. Crackety might even find a few eco kills. Camel Archers are struggling to hold this back right now. What I'm worried about is what Crackety does next. Like, he should be pumping a lot of Monks right now to take all the Relics off the map. Because this was a fairly expensive dive, and it didn't really pay off. Somehow, after all of this, Wham has only lost 1 villager at the very end. That was insane. No way did he just do that. I'm impressed, actually. Like, to lose so low with that many units diving your base, pretty incredible. I mean, the people are beaten up, right? But you know what we call this? We call this life experiences, okay? This is training you for the harsh world. This is like when you play Fallout 3 and that person asks you to drink a bunch of radiated water so they can study you, you know? You're like, oh, you're learning about the real world right now. The real world is going to be harsh for Wham in this one, considering although he may have kept all his villagers alive, he's not really in a position to play for Relics. We have indeed got Camel Archer upgrades coming through. Dude, this build is wild from Wham. Lancer plus Camel Archer against Archer Palace Guard. What would win this? My feelings is that actually Camel Archers aren't that terrible of a choice. You do need to upgrade them first, though. Especially against Fit Archers. Yeah, Wham definitely jumped the gun on this one. No, it's not the Children of Atom. It's the person that owns the local store and wants you to write a book. He's like, I got an idea. Why don't you just drink loads of irradiated water? Oh, thanks. And then if you don't die, you come out as Chadley and strong as Wham's camels. 15 damage, 170 HP. And a third TC on a delay now coming through. Wolves have been snuck on some of the flanks. That's really important, limiting the options for the Chinese here. And Nestaby's now coming in. So that was the one thing I was a bit worried about. That's why I like that Wham's at least adding in crossbows. He needs a way of actually building siege to react to the Nestabys. You could potentially flank with Lancers. Your opponent doesn't have spears. Can we just agree that Crackety's comp is... There we go. Now it's not weird. I'm like, his comp is weird the moment he adds spears. Ah, it's like coming home. We've still got some issues down the line for Crackety here, right? It's important he doesn't lose this area too quickly because he's playing pocket resources. He's not at a point where he's doing a farm transition. Meanwhile, look at what Abbasids are doing, right? They've got Golden Age, they've got cheaper farms, they could even get agriculture when once they're about like 20 farms in. So this is a pretty cozy position for Wham to find himself at. Relic's also now, surprisingly enough, being grabbed by Wham, so we might end up with a 3-2 split. There is a play onto the Y flank, and what am I looking at? There's even fishing going on from Wham. Scott. Reinforcements are going to get cut here. So this is actually really smart by Wham. He can't fight the direct army, but he can raid efficiently. Warlord coming in. I like how that noise got made, and then immediately our sponsor popped up on screen. That's fitting, because I'm trying to convert you guys to some meal replacements so you can get more gaming hours in. Check out Protein Works. Exclamation mark Protein Works. Code Killer Pigeon at checkout. So, wham, wham, wham. Is it a bam, thank you, ma'am? Crossbow massing now occurring. Interesting choice into mass archers. You'd think you might lean archers instead, right? Considering composite bows, because you did go military wing. Is the thought process here that there's less wood on Rocky Canyon? Quite possibly. You don't really get as much wood, right? Like, we've seen this time and time again where it just kind of dries up a surprisingly quick pace compared to a map like Dry Arabia. So that might be part of why Wham doesn't want to lean into archers, because these type of maps, when you're talking about limited wood, for example, that's where China has a favorability to them, right? Is they're taking a limited resource on the map and they're inflating it by 20%. There's not many civs that can do that. Crackety. Getting even deeper across the map now. I can't believe what's happening here. This is like some sort of caravan parade, right? They pack up and move across the next district. He started in his base, he's moving to the center, and now he's moving close to the enemy base, taking every piece of food as he goes. He's that hungry person at the end of the night who's there to clean up all the trash, but he's like, you know, he's picking up cans of beer and he's like shaking them to see if anything comes out. He's scoffing his face with the remains of someone's buffet plate, you know? Cav coming back. Wow, lead is building even bigger now. He has got that second relic home, so 2-3 split in the end. It's a 20 eco lead. If Crackety doesn't go soon, I think he loses this game. He has to make a move. It seems he agrees. Army marching in. 3 Nesta Bees to back him up on this. Springles are being queued up, though. Crossbows. Skirting the edge of the range, making sure the Nesta Bees can't get in. Warlord's going to come out. Wham! He's going to defend it. Crackety needs to back away. Nesta Bees shots do come out. And now they've been baited in range. Springles trying to get the shots out, but a big flurry that hits deep. Just one is all he needed. What a sick bait out of Crackety. He had to defend the Warlord, but that means he has to give over the mass clump here. Nesta Bees have died off now, but now you've got an insane amount of archers in your base that can split up and start killing eco. Few pass guard leaking in as well, and wham! What a sticky situation all of a sudden. Gold low, food low, army count low. And wave after wave on the way to the enemy base. What a play. Crackety, what a time for this as well. He needs to find more eco, though. He's starting to get onto that wood line. This is where it's going to start to stock up a bit. However, the archer count isn't exactly formidable anymore. Most of them being wiped out. A good assault, but not enough for Crackety. We're still talking about, what, 15 eco lead? Needs to find something more. Next wave coming in. Wham, trying to get the defense force together. Behind this, Crackety needs to think about a farm transition, and it is underway. First granary in. Second one needs to join soon. Gold is a little bit out of control. Crackety could even consider selling some to get a tech up, or at least to get a bigger flood of Palace Guard out. I can't believe that, though. The fact that he called the bluff on the Wallalow detail. He's like, okay, you want to defend that? Nesta Bees. That was incredible. That was actually such a sick play from Crackety. But after the reset, even with that play in mind, it's undeniable what has really happened here. Right? Still a 20 eco lead for the Abbasids. A 2-3 relic split. In a game where we should have agriculture coming through soon, because the farm count is sitting up a pretty damn healthy 41. It was a respectable attempt, but I'm struggling to see the way now. Crackety does at least have the forward line siege, so maybe that's the way. Trebuchets to try and break the base. Crackety still just that one granary cluster, so he's sitting at what, 8 farms? 9. The problem with this Trev play is I kind of get it, but you're in a situation where it's not like you're trying to break for a keep. So it almost feels like slowing yourself down this much is making it much harder to win. Composite bows now coming in. I can't believe this. After such a delay, Wham is going to look to commit into archers. It's been a long time in the waiting as well, but it's pretty smart, right? Like, your opponent is going to have crossbow advantage. They're going to have pass guard advantage. If you just try to double down on crossbows now, it's going to be too slow. I actually think this play into composite bows is where Wham wins the game. As long as he doesn't run out of wood, right? That is one difficulty, is that Crackety's leaning to that second wood line, but you have these small clusters to the east side that you can lean into. Lancer's now sneaking around the back, so Crackety may be about to find more cracks in his economy here. I love the fact that he's still playing pocket ecos this deep in the game. As Chinese, right? A civ that usually rushes free granary transitions, but it makes sense, right? I just don't see how you're meant to beat the Abbasid food income. I mean, you can't, statistically. I think people don't run tests on this. Out of all the civs, Abbasid has the highest food income in late game with Eco Wing. Because you get the extra 15% here, and then an extra 8% on drop-off. And then on top of that, remember, Golden Age free, 20% gathering rate. Wolf's coming up from Crackety. Not quick enough, though. This villager's definitely going to get chopped down. So we're starting to march out. Archer Mass hasn't really come out yet, but they have got the composite bows. Wait, has he really been playing without boot camp this whole time? Oh my god, I think Wham forgot. No boot camp makes this a lot harder. However, not hard enough. I think the biggest problem for Crackety here is every time I look and see he has a military lead, I'm reminding myself it's not all here. A lot of it is running across the map right now, which is what is allowing Wham to stay in this game. If he just had a few full production buildings outside of the siege, maybe. Surely without that, no. Trev siege continues. And remember, the paranoia for Wham here and why he's not slowing down is if he does slow down, it's always possible that China is going to tech behind this, right? And then you will lose. Big mango hit in the meantime. Scrimmels are going to be able to snipe that out, though. I mean, the problem is Wham kind of needs culverins, right? But, like, how do you now get into Pure Age without losing this game? It's not often you say that of a person who has a 4 eco lead, but he just doesn't have a standing army to contest this. Looks like Wham is ready for some keep drops, though. What is the plan here? Massive wood gathering makes sense, but he needs to get a massive archers together. The problem, though, is archers alone won't win you this game due to the nest of bees. And Horseman is now a problem with all the spearmen, right? Like, Horseman really feels good once you have biology, not so much before here. I'm trying to figure out how Wham concludes this. The problem with Ghoulims is very tanky, but like Nestabees again, right? Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, oh, you disgusting, vile human being, he's going to do the thing I hate. I respect it when Trebs and Mangoes do it, but not when Nestabees do. If he just builds 5 Nestabees and sits them here, Wham's in trouble. And he's doing it again, the wall crawl. The best game I've ever seen using this still has to be that Delhi Mongol game on Highview. I think it had Viper and maybe Puppy Paw in it. Every time I see this play, I love it. Squirrels can't trade out if you're behind a wall like this. They need an entrance like the gate. Nest of Bees unloading in the meantime, and Wham! I can't believe this. A 40 eco lead, and yet it feels worthless against this. Lancers are trying to wrap around the back, but Spearman quickly giving chase. And Wham! You know, a scenario where he actually gets military advantage is starting to seem less and less likely here. Lancers around in the back. These might not be clock tower siege, but they don't need to be. There's just not enough firepower coming their way. Oh my god, I think he's done it. I actually think he's broken. And the problem for Wham is he's running out of gold quickly, even if he had more. How do you get through this siege issue now? And you know what, guys? It's even worse. Can you believe this? Wham never scouted his back gold. He ran across the map to yoink gold from Crackety's side of the map. That's brutal. And the dive continues. Nesta Bees hitting the flurry into the Archer Mass on the backside. I think it's time to throw in the towel at this stage. The first time, maybe you find a way of repelling it, but now, with the siege advantage as it is, the truth of this game becomes undeniable. China is OP. Thank you, Crackety. We'll get those nerfs sorted soon. Oh, what a vicious game. In a matchup that's meant to favor the Abbasids as well. That wall crawl forced the matter. Like, if you're wondering, why did Wham choke? Why did he send the troops out? He had to. If he didn't, the Trebs would have continued this, and the wall crawl would have came. Crackety forced him to commit into a fight he did not want, because he had no way of dealing with the Nesta Bees yet. No imp, no biology, no elite horseman means no solution. You know, what Crackety just done here has actually reminded me of a particular game on Hideout, if you guys remember. Can someone link the clip for me? It's very important. You know that, oh, Recon, you're so amazing. I think that was a perfect translation. He literally just done the same thing to Wham.